I am so excited about today's guest, you guys. Lori Harder is such an inspiration to so many women, myself included, and she's really one of the most sought after female speakers in the game. She's a TEDx speaker, 10-time cover model, 3-time fitness world champion, a #1 best-selling author, and an incredibly successful and heart-centered entrepreneur who runs 2 7-figure businesses and also has a top 100 podcast called Earn Your Happy, which has over 15 million downloads and counting. Lori, her movement is so powerful, and it's really about creating and finding bliss, spiritual well-being, and sustainable health. And she is the founder of the Bliss Project event and also the best-selling author of A Tribe Called Bliss. And I'm super excited to jam out with her today on Tribe. So thank you so much, Lori, for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited. This is going to be awesome. I literally, some people, you feel them through their posts on Instagram. I was like, I so resonate with this human being. So I'm so happy to be here.
I know we have so many mutual friends. So this is like a long time coming, I feel like.
It is.
Cool. And, I will say I'm personally so excited to talk to you about this very topic of Tribe. I want to talk to you about Tribe. I haven't even told you that's what we're talking about. But I know you're going to be game because that's your thing, So for me, I've had kind of a rough last couple years when it comes to friendship and tribe. And so I'm just really excited to go in deep with you on this. And before we do, though, I really would love for you, and I know you've shared it so many times and it's in your book, but I'd love for you to share that story. I know what story, what story I'm talking about, the one at the pool party on the diving board. And I resonate with this story so much in my own way. And I would love for the listeners to hear it from you as well.
Yes. All right. We're just jumping off with that. No pun intended. It's so crazy because when you write a book, I had no idea that would be the story that resonated with so many people. And it's because, and I'll share in a moment, but it's because it's the moment where we give up the person that we love, that piece of us that we love, and we trade her in for something that we think we should be. And it just completely cuts off, our connection to ourselves, our connection to others. And it typically happens at a really young age, and that happens at a really young age for girls. And for me, I was raised in a really small town. I'm from Upper Michigan. Most people don't even know there is an upper portion to Michigan. So no, I'm not. People are like, yeah, I'm from Detroit. I'm like, no, like 12 hours up, 12 hours north in the woods, the forest. Like I was raised with the hobbits for sure. So really small town. And the reason that I tell you that is just because it was like the only tribe that I had, the only connections that I had. I was also in a restrictive religion. So I was only allowed to hang out with the people who were in my church, meaning if I did not find friends within that realm, I didn't have the option to go seek out other friends in school or whatever that looked like. So when I was around 11 years old, we had our group of friends, and obviously 10, 11, 12, that's the time when things all start to kind of shift. We're all kind of growing up. And I was invited to a pool party, and these were all they were my only friends, right? It was my only group of close friends. And I was so incredibly excited because number one, there wasn't a whole lot to do up north. And number two, it's a pool party with these people, for sure. One of my crushes of my life, like we were for sure going to get married. He just didn't know about it. And I walk up on the diving board, and I'm telling you, when I was a kid, it was like, I was super outgoing. I loved to dance. I loved to be funny. I loved to be the center of attention. I loved to make people laugh. And that's just who that girl was who was walking on the diving board. Like I just loved to entertain people. I was really lighthearted. I loved to connect with people. And I was walking up on the diving board, and I get to the edge, and I'm like, what should I be like? What should I do? This is amazing. This is awesome. All attention's on me. And all of a sudden I'm hearing like this chanting. And I'm thinking at first it's my name, but I realize that they're chanting whale, all of my friends. And it's just that moment of like where your heart gets ripped out because everything that you thought you knew about your life at that moment, even your little 11-year-old life, is just your friends and your family. And it was like that moment of how could I possibly, I felt so ashamed of who I was. And also standing in a swimsuit just felt so completely, you feel bare, you feel naked in front of the world.
Yeah.
To have all your friends saying that it was just a moment of complete and utter like shame for being in my own skin and for who I was, and for even thinking that I was this other person, for thinking that I was fun or funny or lovable. It was this moment of, you're not lovable, like you're disgusting, and just wanting to hide. So I jumped in the water. And I still literally can tap into the sound of like this shriek that I let out into the water, because it was just this feeling, like this very visceral. And these are the moments, right? Those moments that like you just lock into your cells under the water. And I literally was like, I don't even want to come up. But of course, in that flash of a moment, I had another thought. I had a thought of, just wait. I don't even know what that meant, but it was like, literally, it was like, just wait. Like they can't see who I am yet. A crazy thought when you're 11 years old. But from that moment, it was like I traded in the girl that I loved. And I was like, you know, how am I supposed to be in the world now? So it turned into this, just that's dieting and becoming someone else and putting up walls, and which is just the most insane thought that this is happening. When I look at, you know, it's funny when you meet someone's kids who are 10, 11, I'm like, oh my gosh, like these things are happening to this beautiful child right now.
Wow. I can relate with that so much. And it's crazy. Like I used to eat lunch in the girls' bathroom stall. Like I was made fun of, for my body as well, growing up. And so similar to you, I went out and I started really working on my exterior. And as we know, and this is part of what you teach, right, is like none of those exterior results matter if inside the interior, we're not working on that, and we're not healthy in the inside and loving ourselves on the inside. And I know you're a self-love coach, and you teach this stuff to so many women. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about, because I know, and by the way, I even want to touch back on what you're talking about, like being raised in a religious home, because I have questions about that. So maybe we can return back to that later when we do talk about tribe, because I think it's actually very related.
Oh, it's totally related.
Totally. So when you had, that moment, you started, going after these kind of fitness goals. Can you talk us through that journey? And I know it was a lot, it wasn't just like a smooth shot up. But if you could kind of share maybe even the highlights and like those big moments for you as you, really came to where you are today.
I mean, it was a very, very long journey. So I'm going to give you a little attempt to give you a synopsis, because it really did start right there. Like started dieting. I started working out at home. My sister was overweight as well. So she was the first on the diet. She was 4 years older than me. And she had all of these workout VHS tapes. And I would do them all the time. I do the Cindy Crawford workouts. There were 2 of them. I literally still remember exactly what all of the moves were, and, different step routines and things like that. So I started getting really interested in fitness, and something happened that was beautiful along the journey of, number one, something that's also kind of ugly. So while I took it to the extremes, there was also so much beauty, because within all of that exercising at a young age, I also found that exercise was really huge for me, for my anxiety. Because I wasn't eating well. I didn't understand that piece yet, right? It was like still the fat-free craze. So I was having like just a shit ton of sugar and all of the fat-free things like Snackwells and Yahoo. And I'm like, what? It's fat-free. I can have all this. And what happened though, is that I, through exercise, kind of experienced, if I can really say what it was, like a spiritual awakening pretty much. Because, when you're out in nature and you're moving your body and you're just moving your body in general, not only was it helping with anxiety, but there were moments when I would be out running or rollerblading or walking that I was getting these glimpses of what I was capable of. You can't really even say what they are when you're young. You're just kind of getting pictures of yourself in a powerful way, or doing different things, whether I was performing, or doing fitness routines. I had seen a couple of Fitness America pageants on TV, and that was it for me. I could tell that I was a really athletic kid, even though I was homeschooled through high school and didn't have the opportunity to express that because I couldn't hang out with other people. I couldn't join gymnastics. I wasn't allowed to join things that had people who weren't in my religion in it, like worldly people. So with that said, I wasn't allowed to do anything. So I would kind of go and figure these things out on my own. Like, I'd try to teach myself gymnastics and whatever else, dance and things like that. But I saw these glimpses of myself doing big things, which you can imagine the internal fight of, being raised in a religion where you weren't supposed to necessarily do big things at all. You were just going to preach, and that was your main thing. You weren't going to put anything else above God. So it was like, I saw huge things for myself while also fighting with, wait, this isn't right, at a super young age. So what I was allowed to do was work out. So I just went ham on working out and also thinking, how could I make a career out of this? And when I noticed that I was the only person in my family who was, as I was getting older, I was losing weight. Like I was keeping the weight off, and everybody was like, how in the world are you doing this? You must be so lucky. Like it must be, you must be the only one in the family with these genetics. And I'm thinking, I'm the only one who's working out 2 to 3 hours a day. That's what's going on in attempting to eat healthier. And so when I was 18, what was happening internally and mentally with like my beliefs and what I thought I was supposed to do, and how there was just like such a fight with who I knew I was and what my environment was reflecting back to me.
With your family?
Yes. And I love my family, but totally different beliefs. And there was a lot of, religious trauma, and, it's still hard for me to say that because I love them and so many of them are still in the religion. So, but it's my truth. So, with that said, when I was 18, I moved out, and I pretty much broke my mom's heart because I wasn't communicating why. And then I moved out I probably didn't communicate with them very much for the first maybe 2 to 3 years, because I couldn't. I was literally living like a completely opposite life that they would never approve of. And what can happen in that religion is that you can get like disassociated. So your family may not talk to you. So I was protecting them by not telling them what my life was like.
And was that, so when you were 18, you left. So then cause I kind of know some of your story. Is this when like you were like partying and
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Partying, drinking, just really, it's like letting go of a spring, right? You're just like, you're kind of held back and you're like, whoa, like the world is like my oyster, except I found all of the worst things and was hanging out with all of the wrong people. So I went through a good 2 to 3 years of just going, wild, literally. And numbing and experiencing everything, and talk about the lowest of the lows. And the thing that always kind of saved me and made me remember who I was fitness. Like I always kind of went back and forth to fitness and eating healthy. And it really, for that time, it really did save my life, because I started to get so depressed and so anxious and really start to see this pattern of these people I was hanging out with were just not good. The things that were happening to them and the things that were happening to us. And like, I was like, this is not going well. So, I had called my dad and I was like, Dad, like, cause he was always the one who was kind of in and kind of out of the religion. And I was like, I have to come home. Like, I can't tell you what's going on, but I have to come home. Like I will continue to pay my lease and finish it out. But I'm like, it's not good. There's a lot of stuff going on in my house. There's a lot of drugs. And he's like, just come home. You can work for me for a little while and figure it out. And that was really the place where I was like, I have got to get my life together. I have to figure out what I'm going to do. And I worked with him for a while. We did kitchens and bathrooms. I had worked with him before. So yes, I've installed cabinetry. I've made countertops, all of the great things. If you need your kitchen redone, you can call me.
Love it.
But after that, it was like, I started to just realize like fitness has transformed my life, and it has always saved me. Like it's always brought me back to center, because it's not just about, it wasn't about fitness. Yes, it is. It's your body, but it was about what happens when you move and when you take care of this vessel. It's like, I could hear that voice again, and I could hear like, it's okay. Like you can do more. You're worth more than this. So that's when I started training different people. And then I got a job at a gym. And then I opened my own studio. And then I was also starting to compete because I just had the goal of like wanting to be a mentor for people in fitness. And I thought that was like only done if you were Jillian Michaels or on the covers of magazines.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a mentor for millions of people. So that was the goal back then. It was just like, all right, this is what you do if you're a fitness person. You've got two options, magazines or Biggest Loser. and honestly, I went for both. And I competed for 3 years without winning like any titles, nothing, like no first place, nothing. And that was actually a long time for girls to be competing and not winning anything. You kind of are like, okay, I'm doing this for fun, or, you're not going to do it anymore. And I was doing like 4 to 5 competitions a year for 3 years, which you can imagine just took a massive toll on my body. That equals dieting all year long. And dieting in the fitness world is like, that pretty much means zero carbs pretty much for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So that created a different sort of eating disorder, being like binging and, just massive binge eating, over exercising. That led me down an incredibly challenging spiral. And then 6 years in, I ended up winning competitions. And from there, it's not like you win and you get magazine covers. You win and you pitch the crap out of yourself. So I pitched myself more times than I could possibly imagine, to the point where I was like, they might ban me. Like, I might be considered a stalker to all of these magazines because
you're
I am
super persistent.
So persistent. Like some of my friends were landing magazines left and right. And I was just like, I guess that's not my story, but I didn't give up on that. So again, it's kind of crazy because just going back to some of those things, I thought that winning would be this pivotal peak of my lifetime. And I just remember after winning, I had won 2 titles. That was like and broke a record. I won 2 titles at one show, which is like never happened for this particular federation. And so I was up in my room thinking, I literally just set a world record for whatever this federation is. And I am sitting here like, I should be so happy. This is what I've waited for since I can possibly remember. And I was in my room alone. Like my husband was down, like probably getting me more candy or something. And I was literally in my room alone. And I thought, oh my God, I missed it. Like I missed what this journey was actually about. I forgot to remember to enjoy the process and like enjoy all the friends.
So important.
Like I forgot. And I literally said that in my room. I was like, I missed it. Like I missed what this was about. And so that's when I really started to learn like, whoa, be more present. Like it's not about the destination. No matter how much I said that, believe me, there were plenty of destinations I set right after that and blazed the trail and didn't, I totally did not enjoy the process as much as I'm enjoying life right now. And I still do it. But it absolutely opened my eyes to like finding miracles and gifts along the way and being a lot more present. Because my God, it is not about the destination. But I do believe, like, I am a huge advocate and preacher for having destinations, like absolutely having big goals. But just only do it if you enjoy it. Like you better enjoy the shit sandwiches that you're eating along the way. Like just don't forget, that they're all a part of it.
It's so true, because we do, like, we'll get so affixed, like, I'll be happy when this happens, and it's such like a conditional way to live. And it's so true what you said. Like we really get to focus. Like I have this new mantra this year of let joy be my guide, let joy be my guide, and just really focusing on creating joy in the moment, because we are not guaranteed a tomorrow ever. Like, I mean, and like, I'm not to be morbid, but seriously, we're not even guaranteed a next hour. We don't know what can happen. It's so, life is so uncertain. And so, what's the point if we're just sitting here suffering? Like we didn't come here to suffer. We came here to enjoy life.
Yes.
And it's something that I feel like, and a lot of times, even I can relate so much with you and your story of like, we're in so much pain. So then we set out to prove, right? And there's this like proving game, right?
Yes.
And then when we get there and we're like, wait a minute. Like this isn't
like, wait, nobody's even here. Nobody cared the whole time.
I'm still alone. Yeah, totally. And I think with even your story about religion, like with your family and stuff, I relate with that as well. And, that feeling of, when I wasn't in a space where my family was, I chose religion. So I chose it and I got super in it, like super, super in it. And then, so when I got out of it, I was super sheltered. And then when I got out of it, same thing, I kind of let loose and went wild and was partying all the time. And so it was similar kind of story to you, similar but different. And so and I love one thing I'm noticing as you're sharing all this stuff, Lori, is like, you've truly taken both of your pain points. So like growing up, it was the, being overweight, right? And unhealthy. And then now you're teaching people how to get healthy, how to get physically in shape, how to get like mentally, spiritually in shape, healthy, right? So there's that piece. And then now you're teaching people how to create tribe. And you came from feeling isolated.
Yes.
You were isolated, you felt alone, you felt like you didn't belong. And now you're teaching other people how to create their belonging. It's like, it's so cool when I see this with like powerful thought leaders like you. It's like you've really transformed your pain into your platform and your purpose. And I feel like, so I mean, same with me, same, sort of thing. And it's makes you even that much more powerful that you have those stories, because then your audience, they can relate with you so much. They see themselves in you. Like, I see myself in you, in your story, and it's cool. So cool that you're sharing that like you do in your book and in podcasts like this, and you're being vulnerable and you're opening up, because it just gives other people permission to do the same thing. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Oh, thank you. And I love that you pointed that out, because I think for people listening, they're in the middle of that story. Like, how am I going to get out of this? And this is horrible. And I wouldn't wish this on anyone, except like, I always think about how powerful it is. Like, some of the things that I share that people relate to the most, or the reason why people come to our events and listen to our things, is because we can go back to that story and access that pain. Like, we actually can speak to it. And if you can't, you have to be in it to be able to speak to it. Like, I can't sit here and talk about different traumas that I haven't experienced. I'll absolutely refer them to other people or things like that. Yeah. But it's like that exact thing that you're going through, even if it seems small to you, or if it seems so big that you'll never get through it, like, you're going to be able to speak to those exact people, because you'll be able to access the feeling.
Yeah, totally. And they can feel that energy exchange. So let's talk a little bit, if you're good with shifting into Tribe.
I love shifting.
I love shifting.
I'll go wherever you want to go. Yeah.
I'm along for the ride. I love it. So I just want to share with you, and I definitely don't think I've shared this on the podcast yet for listeners. This past couple years has been a little rough for me in terms of friendships and tribe. I had a situation with a friend where I needed to cut things off because there was a value misalignment. Something had happened, and it was very painful for me. It felt like more painful than any breakup I've had with like a romantic partner, because I was so invested in this friendship, and it really, really hurt when it had to end. And I know something that you talk about, which I really want to hear more on your perspective of this, is like, one thing I was really clear about this year, I'm calling in a best friend. I keep saying that because right now I feel like I don't really have like a really solid, like, best friend, a female best friend, a tribe of women that's like, I feel really close to. And I feel like I'm in this kind of transition right now in my life. And I know something that you said before, which is like not putting everything into one person, AKA like one best friend, which is so interesting because that's what I've always done. I've always had, just like, even in high school for 10 years, it was one friend, but I look back and I'm like, we kind of did isolate ourselves, because I put everything into her. And then same with this next best friend, and both of those friendships ended. So I would love to kind of hear your thought process on that specifically, and how, like, what do you do to create your close friendships? What does that look like?
I'm just going to talk to the past me. Okay. So that was me. So I will tell you that, I shared in the book, like, I had a best friend checklist and I didn't know I had it. It was like, she has to be this. I didn't even know I was doing that. Like, I guess I had an expectation for this person and I didn't know that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would happen is when, you know, you're friends with someone for a long time and you start to change, your checklist is kind of like, well, why can't you support me or celebrate me here? Or why don't you like this? Or why don't you believe what I'm believing? Or, you know, I can't believe that you feel this way. It's like you start to shift, or different things start mattering in different relationships. And when we hold one person to a certain standard, it's impossible because people change and you are so multifaceted. And when I say people change, not only them, but you are changing so much.
Yeah.
So, you know, no one person can be everything for you. Not even your spouse. Like, this was huge because when my husband and I first got married, it was like, I went through that whole thing with different friends that I was like, wow, I thought I had good girlfriends, but it always ended up falling apart. Like, because truly in the beginning, I was just kind of like hanging out with terrible people. So then I decided, whatever, I don't need friends. If I have this great partner, he's my best friend. And it was like, you know, he was too tired to do certain things on the weekend because he was too tired from work, or he didn't want to go when I started to like get really interested in meditation or these different retreats. He wasn't interested. And I was like, oh my God.
He's like, I'm not a hairy woman. Okay.
He's like, I was like, maybe he's the wrong partner for me, because I was starting to get interested in different things, even though he was still so amazing and perfect in so many areas. I started focusing on what he wasn't instead of what he was for me. And it started to become a huge problem within our marriage. And that's one place it started to arise, is I was like, wait a minute, this is like, I'm going down this spiritual path and he's not. And I don't know if he's the right person and all of these different things, except he was so grounding for me. And he was so like, he helped me communicate. He was so good in business. He was just like an amazing partner. And I had kind of these different breakthroughs it's funny, I went on a couple different retreats, and one of my friends who I write about in the book, she talks about collecting people. And she helped me with this massive breakthrough. Her name is Lindsay Sikornik. And she said, you have to collect people for different areas of your life, different parts of you, because what's going to happen is you're going to put an expectation on someone. Maybe you have, you know, just like me, I was starting to get really interested in the spiritual community. Yet at the same time, I had this girl who loved, you know, to go try on like amazing girly clothes and talk about, you know, I love to go get champagne and wine, and I love to like just go to the beach and do California things. But I also loved to meditate and to learn about the brain and to be in this community who danced with drums and didn't drink. And I was like, wait, I have these two battles like fighting within me, and this community is telling me maybe that's not the way to go. And this one doesn't like tap into the richness of this. So I was always finding myself torn, whether it was between like, oh my God, is my relationship right? Or what, you know, all of these different things. She just had this moment of, we can be all things. So you have to collect all people for different areas of your life. Like no one person will fulfill everything. So with your friends, you know, you might find a friend that you are just obsessed with because she might be your girl for when you are like wanting more adventure in your life. So I have a friend who, she is my girl she makes me get out of my own fears, and we're just going to adventure together. Like we're going to snowboard, we're going to laugh, we're going to drink wine, we're going to do all those things, but we're probably not going to talk about business together. We're going to talk about life and dreams, but we're probably not going to talk about business, which is one of my favorite things to talk about. And we're probably not going to talk about like spiritual stuff. So, you know, she was on my best friend checklist for a while early on, and she almost got cut because it was like, I was disappointed that she wasn't with me for all things. She wasn't my girl for all things.
Got it.
And I was just like, okay. So then, you know, I have these other friends who are like super spiritual. They have kids. They are like, they don't drink. They, you know, they only eat, you know, super, super, super like clean foods. Like I almost feel like, oh my God, can I be myself around these people?
Yeah.
And I think as we collect more people, we realize I can fully be myself around these people. These people are serving such a really amazing, like they're giving me such a service in my life. They're kind of teaching me more how I can be more conscious in these different areas, but I don't have to be that. I don't have to fit in with that. Like the more that you can accept yourself for all of those things, the more that you can just collect people. You don't need one person to approve of you all the time or be all things for you. So the more that I was like, I like who I am and this is okay. And I like this part of me, and this part of me is fulfilled over here. And then I'm going to have this part of me fulfilled over here. And of course, you're going to have your people that you're a lot closer to. But even the women who are, you know, I have a couple women in my inner circle, and there are things I'm not like, I don't call on them for everything, because there are times I'm like, you know what, I don't want to spend my New Year's with that group. I want to do it with this group. So it's really being super free to, which I don't do anything on New Year's. I don't know why I said that. But you know what I mean? Like you just, there are different times of your life that you're going to call on different groups. And I think that we have this limiting idea that if we, you know, don't invest all into one person or something, it's not a best friend. I have so many best friends. And when I say so many, I mean a handful. Like I can count them on one hand. But I couldn't tell you who is like, you know, number one out of all of them, because they just fill such different places in my life.
That's a really cool way to look at it. And it's a way that honestly, I haven't looked at it that way before. And it makes total sense. And you know, for those of you listening / watching, remember, like, true belonging is when you belong to yourself.
Yes.
And I mean, that's what I was hearing you say, is like when we truly belong to ourselves, meaning that we are our own best friend, like that gets to be our number one. We get to be our number one. And then we're going to be okay with the fact that we're not exactly like this tribe of people or this tribe of people. So it sounds to me like you're saying you can have, you know, multiple tribes. And I love that too, because we're all multifaceted, you know, and I love that when you said, because I was just thinking like in my own life, like, yeah, there's this friend who I can be really spiritual with. And then there's this other friend who that probably wouldn't go, you know, that probably wouldn't go with that particular. So I think it's really important to honor ourselves more than anything. And I'm wondering for you, do you have like a core values? Like, have you written out, like, do you have like a top 4 or 5 core values where it's like, if you know, like this person, they may not fit like your core values. So then you know that this wouldn't be someone that you would want to be in like a close relationship with.
I think so.
In your close tribe. Yeah.
I don't think I've written them out, but I know what they are. Like I run them through in my head. They have to have, there's a couple things. They have to just be all about radical candor. So we're going to talk about whatever comes up, no matter, and have that freedom to talk about what comes up. I have that in my life. I have that on my team. We have that in our marriage. Like face the hard stuff head on. And these aren't in order. So number 2 would be an abundance mindset. Like I can't be friends with somebody who does not believe in abundance, not in money, but also in money, but in life in general. Like her and I don't have to be best friends. She can have a million other best friends. I don't care. Like I believe in abundance in people. I believe in abundance in friends. I believe in abundance in the world. If we are doing the exact same thing, we are not in competition. Like the world is so abundant that it's just better together.
That's huge.
No matter what it is. And number 3 is they have to believe in love wins overall, because if you come from a place of love, you're going to be able to solve everything all the time. Even if the solving is, you know, separating your friendship, because it's the most loving thing that you two can do for each other and release each other with love. So I think that those are my 3 that I always think of. And I can usually spot them right away just by how they speak. And it's not like, it's not that I'm running people through it, but really you can tell by how people be in the world, how they speak online, how other people interact with them. And those are the 3 that I'm pretty much always looking for.
I think it's a powerful thing we can challenge our listeners and watchers to do right now is like, you know, pause or at the end of the episode, write down and get clear. You don't have to write down. You can even just meditate on it and get clear with like, what are my top 3 values? What are my core values that absolutely are like non-negotiables? Like it sounds, they're kind of like rules in a sense, you know. Yes. I love what you said, like the love one. That's a big one for me. I won't be in a close relationship with anyone who is an eye for an eye type of person, because I just don't believe in that. And that would be a huge red flag for me to then move, which actually brings me perfectly to my next question is, when you get in those situations where you realize maybe a friend that you've had for a long time and you're like, wait a minute, I've evolved and this person hasn't, and it's not fitting my core values. It's not fitting, it's just not a fit for me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, how do you approach those situations? Like I get that question a lot actually from my audience.
Yeah. Well, these situations really suck.
Yeah, they're definitely not easy. We'll just say that right away.
Horrible. They're horrible. They are. And that's why we have so many questions about them, is because everybody wants a different answer than the truth. So otherwise it wouldn't be a question. We would just all say the truth. And the truth is, it's not going to be easy. And you're going to have to be the person who either slowly and gently starts to, here's the thing. I heard the best thing. I need to remember who it was from. I'm giving them credit wherever they are, if it comes back to me. We're talking about how, got it, Chalene Johnson. I just did a podcast with her talking about communication with this. And she said, I don't think it requires a tough conversation unless you know it is worth saving, unless you know the person is changing or is not aware of what they're doing. And you believe that they could be this other person, or you believe they are this other person and this was just a blip. And I think we all know this, that it either is working or it's not. Okay, so first let's establish that, right? It either is or it's not. And it's super clear to us. So answer in your head what you think is true and go with your, it's not even like, oh, it's never gray, right? It's black and white at this point when you know, like, oh, this is not somebody that I can move forward with in my life. Like, this is not healthy for me. This is not adding to me. I don't feel good. My energy is always really low. This is totally out of alignment. This person's not supporting me. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to, they don't support where I'm going. Okay. So we already know. So with that said, if we know it's something that has to go, we don't necessarily even have to have the tough conversation of like, hey, you're not really changing or evolving. And I am, so bye. Like, not like you'd ever say that, but what do you want the conversation to say? So with that said, things that I've done in my life is you kind of phase out. Like, you kind of don't answer the text right away. You kind of start saying you're doing X, Y, and Z. And if they want to come along, they can. And if they don't, then they don't. Like, you can kind of start letting it phase out, and energy is starting to speak louder than words. And if it requires a conversation of just, complete honesty of maybe I just am not sure that we're on the same path anymore. Maybe in the future when they're asking a lot of questions, but a lot of times they don't. A lot of times it just starts to phase out. And sometimes they're going to talk about you. Maybe 99% of the time you're going to hear some shit talking for a while. And it's because there's, that's what we do as human beings. We protect ourselves. So you can't be angry about it, and it's not going to ruin your reputation, because the only thing that you have to worry about is how you show up and who you are. And that will speak louder than anything else. So yes, I've had these relationships dissolve. Yes, I've been talked about. Yes, I've been called selfish. Yes, I've been called that I wasn't good enough for where she wanted to go. She only wanted to hang around with these people. Yes, because I want to learn. I want to go there, and you are invited, but you're not willing to come with. So, and that's
and I think it's so important to be, like, because at the end of the day, that's everyone. I'm going to speak for even the listeners and say, like, that's probably your biggest fear is the backlash from that, the judgment, the gossip, the all of those things that no one wants. The thing is I have this thing in my book where I talk about asking yourself the question, so what? Like, just over and over. So what if they do gossip about you? So what if they say you're selfish? So what if they go behind your back? Then what? So what? And it's like, well, then, maybe they'll say it to somebody that I care about, and I don't want them to think of me that way. Okay. So then what if they think of you that way? Then what? Like, just keep asking the question, and you'll realize, like, you're not going to die. Like, you're going to live. And actually, at the end of the day, it gives you an opportunity to get that much more grounded in your why, like in why I am choosing to leave this relationship, to leave this friendship. It's not serving me anymore. It's not in alignment anymore. And that's an act of self-love. That is like a radical act, a brave act of self-love. And, I mean, if we talk about, like, even that fear, that fear of leaving a tribe, that fear of a tribe kicking you out, like, it's something that's so deep rooted in us as humans. Like if you go back, go back
survival.
Yeah, that's what it meant. Like back at like way back, if we were kicked out of a tribe, that meant death.
Yeah.
You couldn't survive without it. So that's why we have this like innate like desire, this need to feel that belonging. And we're afraid that if we don't have that, the actual like deep subconscious fear is death.
Yeah.
We get real. We're like, wait a minute. No, that's not real anymore. I'm not going to die. You know, we live in an abundant world, and I can find a new tribe, you know,
right.
You know?
Right.
So when you're out and you're like, okay, I'm clear. I know what I'm calling in my tribe, my friendship. How does one go about creating that? Like, how did you go about then creating your tribe? Like, what were kind of what's like some tangible steps we can give the listeners to creating their tribe?
Well, this is a thing that it's like, this takes work. This is going to take work. I get asked this all the time. Like, well, how did you do it? I'm like, a lot of time. Like, you know, I'm still doing it. I'm still building it out. And it's still the most challenge. I'm telling you, I'll talk about it till the day I die, because it's what I struggle with the most. And, you know, I don't want to use that language, but it's just hard. I have more of an internal introverted person. I enjoy being alone. So until I don't, right? It's like, yay, I love being alone. And then I'm like, I'm lonely. So it's very like totally back and forth. With that. Yeah, totally. So I have to make sure that I'm getting out of my shell, even though I love my shell. So I think for making friends, something that I do is I try to make sure that I'm out in the world a lot, like that I'm out in community. And I think what I tell people is to go for the low hanging fruit. So go and join something first. If you're like, I don't know where these like-minded people are, you know, I'm coming out of these friendships of this old person that I was, and this old person had terrible habits and, you know, was maybe drinking all the time, or, you know, had really unmotivated people in her life. So you're kind of like needing to change your environment and who you are and where you're going. So start going to the places where potentially positive-minded people are. This is not a guarantee that positive-minded people are in positive places at all times, or that they want to connect with you, but you'll be more likely to find connections if you start doing things like go to workout classes, even if you don't want to. Like, start getting into community. Start seeing if you have any networking groups.
Yeah.
Start seeing if you have any like women's nights or book clubs or anything in your community.
Yeah, like you could use Meetup. You know,
I did it forever.
There.
Yeah. I felt like such a lunatic when I first moved to California, because I'm like, I'm literally going to start a meetup with people who want to like work out and meditate, like on the beach.
Cool.
And I had to be so consistent with it, because, you know, the first time I think no one showed up. Second time I think no one showed up. Third time people show up, you know?
Well, to see that's so important. And like the fact that you kept doing it no matter what, that's people, again, that's another fear. Well, what if no one shows up?
They're not gonna.
So what? Again, so what? So what if they don't? What are you making that freaking mean, girl? You know?
Yes.
And also another one, I've heard you say this before. I don't know where I heard you say this, but I think you said that you reached out, like you were reaching out via DMs or something too. And I want to say
at the same time,
we're not going to downplay how effective that can be. I mean, we're given this platform of like, we have unlimited opportunity for connection that we can create. Now, again, it feels vulnerable, right? You're reaching out, you're saying, hey, like, I love your stuff. You know, I totally vibe with this, that of your story. And I would love to like explore this and see if we can create a friendship here. Like, you know, and being bold and like risking the fact that yes, that person may not respond. Okay. Again, so what? Like keep like, this is like, and I know you've done this. I've done it as well. I've made friends through the DMs. Like it happens, and it's
totally,
you can't discount the power of that right now, you know?
I've made relationships where I've done events with people. Like we did our events together off of just DMs. Like I was like, hey, I'm new in the area. This might seem really weird, but here goes. It's the only way to make friends when you're from the Midwest and you're moving out to California. Like I would say stuff like that. Yeah. So, you know, and I sent that to, I can't even tell you how many people, and did not have a lot of takers, but I started going on friend dates. So every Monday I had a regular appointment at Orange Theory for myself. And I would reach out and be like, hey, I always go here every Monday at 9. If you can make it awesome, like I would just invite them to my workout and I'd say, we can grab coffee. I would say for 15, 20 minutes after, cause I would like give them a time and be like, hey, I get it. We're busy. Like we want to kind of like feel each other out. I wouldn't necessarily say feel each other out, but I would give them like an out. That's very important, you guys, is to say, hey, you know, I'm looking for it, just looking for like somebody who'd want to work out, maybe like just talk for 15, 20 minutes after, go to coffee, see if there's any synergy there, if we can help each other with anything. And that's it. Like I literally would let them off the hook because so many women say no because they are afraid of other people needing them too much or needing to show up. Like we already have these crazy busy lives. This is like the number one fear that I find with a lot of relationships is they're like, oh my God, they're going to have too many expectations on me. So you need to set the expectation like, hey, like this is just like either a one-time thing or a once a month thing or once every 6 months thing. But I would love to just go grab coffee with you, 30 minutes of coffee. That's it. No expectations afterward. I write that down. And I had a lot more people say yes, because I was so clear on my expectations from the beginning.
It's great. And I love it because it's actually totally two-sided. It's great for them. It's great for you because if you, you know what I'm saying? Like the reason we feel let down is because why? We got expectations.
Yeah.
You cannot actually, you cannot be let down by something if you didn't have an expectation to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's powerful, not just for them. It's great for them because yes, they feel like that kind of, it's a free flowing thing. And then for you, it also gets to be a free flowing thing where you're not attached to a specific result. You don't have an expectation. Then you won't be let down. So that's a total two-way street. So I love that you brought that up. It's so true.
And I want to be super honest. Like, I think probably 90% of those and I went on so many friend dates here, I don't see anymore, but the one or two I do, and they're really in my life, like really in my life. But yeah, 90%, I don't even know how many that would be, 25, 30, maybe more. I have not heard a peep afterwards. So
you're girl, you're inspiring me so much right now. I can't even tell you because now I'm getting super excited about this year. I've been traveling a ton and I know my audience knows this. I've been traveling like crazy these last 10, 11 months, whatever it's been. And which is tough, to create some self-interest when you're constantly on the move.
It is.
And this year I'm going to be grounded. I'm really excited to be more grounded this year. And put in the effort. Like you guys, you can't discount the fact that if you want something, like anything, whether it's business, whether it's personal friendships, like it takes work, it takes effort. And along the way, like you get to enjoy yourself, bringing it back to the very beginning of the conversation that we're having with Lori, like you get to enjoy the journey of creating these friendships. And like Lori was persistent. She went on a ton of friend dates. I love that you did that. I'm like, is there an app for this too?
There is an app.
There is? What is the app?
I think it's Bumble Best Friends. And also my friend has one called It's called how do I not remember it? Oh, I'm going to have to come back to you.
If it comes back to you, just send it to me and I'll put it in the show notes for them.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that.
If Lori thinks of it, it'll be in the show notes for you guys. But I mean,
I think it's Vina. I think it's Vina. Yeah, I'll have to look it up. Vina, I believe.
Vina. Okay. Okay, cool. Well, either way, we will put it in the show notes for you guys so that you guys can hop on this app because I'm about to check it out. I love it. Okay. There's so many questions I had that I want to ask you, and I know we're nearing the end. The one last thing, and I know that we could go places with this question. So we'll reel it in.
Okay.
I really, and this is a question I get from my audience a lot, is drawing energetic boundaries. I would love, even if like just maybe one or two things they could do. Like if they feel right now they have someone in their life, and also this is works really good for family. If you like you talked about, sometimes our family is the hardest people to draw energetic boundaries with, and they don't share the same beliefs as you, but we don't need to agree with them to love them, right? So how do we create the energetic boundaries to support ourselves in these kinds of relationships?
Oh, we've had so many tough conversations with our family, and they've had tough conversations with us about how they feel about how we were coming at them with different things. And you have to be open to both sides, because when you come with a boundary they're going to feel like they are being threatened, or they are being pushed out, or they're, things are changing for them. It doesn't feel good when you come with a boundary, when you're changing the way things are. So first of all, when you know that you're going to set a boundary, you have to understand it's not going to be received well. And that's the most important thing to first know. So to be so empathetic and understanding of whatever is going to come back, especially if they don't have the tools that you do of dealing with that and knowing that it's important that you have one. Yeah. To them, it's just going to feel like you're being a big jerk and you want to stop them or cut them out or have something be different or not do something for them anymore. So just know that that is there. Whenever you're setting a boundary, it doesn't just take one time of setting it. It's going to probably have to be reinforced for a very long time. Or, maybe you will get lucky and have to do it 2 or 3 times, but it'll probably be something that's always a conversation. But it'll be an accepted conversation as it moves forward. So with me, I had to set a boundary on, talking about religion around my family. Like that's, if we're going, I love them. I love you guys. I want to hang out, but I'm not going to be able to come back or do this if this topic is going to come up. So when it comes up, I'm going to do a friendly reminder that this never ends well. So if we want to stay in each other's lives, like we get to experience this side of us, but we don't get to go here. And that is not an easy conversation.
And real quick, if I may, something key that I want the listeners to pay attention to with what you just said is you started with an acknowledgement. I think is really important.
Yes,
because I'm an analyzer personality type. So sometimes like I'm not super fluffy with things. And sometimes I'll go right in for the kill and I'm like, and then it comes off like we're being we're even more of a dick,
Yeah.
It's like super insensitive. And I'm like, oh damn. Okay. I definitely could have softened that a little bit. So if you're listening and you're kind of like that, I love that you started with like, I love spending time with you. And, I love that you guys are passionate about whatever, I love that you guys are passionate about what you believe. That's super awesome. And this is my request, so it's like you're acknowledging them first so that, like basically what you're doing in that moment is you're letting them know you're coming from a space of love.
Yes.
You're communicating the love first, you're coming from a space of love, and then you're making your request. So I just wanted to point that out because that's a key thing in communication, especially when you're going to bring up something that's a little tougher that may be hard for someone to hear, to like acknowledge them first. I think that's really important. So anyways, continue.
Yes. I have 2 more really good examples that were challenging in my life. One was a friend who I realized was never, it felt very one way. I felt like I was never being asked about how I was, but I was coaching all the time. So I would leave and be like, damn, this girl needs to pay me because I feel like I'm coaching. And you're exhausted and you're like,
yep,
this either has to end or I need to have a conversation. It was a relationship I wanted to save. And I realized that I had to first, in every one of these, I always say like, how do I take ownership of this? Like, how am I creating this in my life? Like, how is this relationship this way because of me? And I realized that she would ask me how I was and I would say, fine, how are you? And I would never like elaborate on how I was ever. And so I wasn't willing to get vulnerable with her and tell her how I really was and ask for some help or ask for some guidance. Because I found this was a huge problem in my life and this was happening in a lot of relationships. This one I just felt safe enough to bring it up because I wanted to keep it. But it was happening in every relationship because I had an epiphany that I did not feel valuable unless I was offering value. Like I didn't actually know how to even be a space holder I didn't understand that a true connection came when 2 people shared vulnerably and listened to each other also. So for me, I had to go to her and say, hey, I've noticed that I am always, when you ask me how I am, I never actually tell you. And then what that ends up causing me to do is coach you because I love coaching and helping, except when I leave, I feel like we didn't connect as much as I want to because I'm not sharing any part of me. So can you hold me accountable to making sure I elaborate and share and get your opinions on where I'm at in my life? So that was like freaking amazing for me.
And so that's so key because this is a key thing too, is, Lori took responsibility and she asked herself a question of like, how am I showing up such that I'm not receiving the support that I'm giving her? How am I causing and creating this? And so it's like, that's really powerful, because then when you come to that person from that space, that's going to feel so much better than being like coming from a space of blame and like victim and, you know, you never asked me and instead like just making like a loving request of holding me accountable. I love that you said that. And that's a really powerful way to, you know, instead, I feel like a lot of people will blame when someone, even if someone crosses our boundary. We talk about boundaries. That's not their boundary to uphold. It's your boundary, right? So if someone's crossing your boundary, it ain't their fault. Okay. That's your boundary. It belongs to you. So same way in this, it's like, you know, that's something that you desired, that you wanted, and you took responsibility and you were like, all right. And then you made the loving request. So that's really cool. And I really hope you guys got that. And I'm going to use that as well. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. What was the third one? You had a third one.
So the last one was, and I love that you just said that, because it is your responsibility to hold up the boundary. And here's the thing, if they start to not respect, like never respect it, if they never come to the place where they're like, oh, okay, I see that, you know what I mean? Like, I get that this is now a boundary, sorry about that. And they start to respect it, or they acknowledge it when they do and they fix what they're doing. It is now your job to set a bigger boundary, which could potentially be that they're not allowed back in your life.
Exactly.
So I've had times with people, and I have one in particular with someone really close to me who right now, I mean, just pretty much related. So in my life where I had to set a boundary with phone calls, because I've never been on a phone call that's like turns into less than 2 hours and crying in like a session, like just a full on session every time, like where my life is going to have to go in a closet and like do some therapy with this person. I've never had one phone call that doesn't require that. Like otherwise you're leaving them hanging in the middle of what seems like a crisis. And
I can totally relate to that.
So what happens is I don't pick up the phone because I never have time for it. So I've had really clear conversations multiple times now that if we want to have a relationship, we can talk, but I have to know it's in shorter spurts. I have to know that we can just connect more often instead of, you know, once every 6 months for 2 hours of a therapy session because I'm not going to answer the phone. So I started to be like, okay, I know you're calling me right now. I can only talk for 10 to 15 minutes max, or just 15 minutes max right now. I have something.
Communicating that right away. Yeah.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, every time I'm doing that, it's not working. It's going into full on, you know, tears and crisis immediately, which makes me feel like I'm a horrible person to cut it off there and go on with my next appointment or a podcast. So I'm feeling like this horrible cycle of like, this is not good. Like, this is not a good relationship for me to be in because I can't help anyway. So that's the kind of boundary where I'm like, even though I keep having this conversation, it's not being understood. So it's kind of like, that is up to me to decide if I'm going to continue on or to keep picking up the phone and having this conversation over and over again, because I don't want to keep repeating myself on it. And I feel very not seen. So that's a decision that I'm making right now. It's not like an end all be all, but it is like a self-love thing for me.
Yeah. And you can create, again, a rule with yourself there. Like if I've asked this, if I've made it clear and I've communicated responsibly my boundaries and my requests, and after, 3-4 times, you could set like literally hold yourself accountable to that. It's not being honored or respected, then that's on you. Again, it's on you to then make a decision. And that decision could very well be, okay, then no more of these conversations, and it's a hard choice. Again, like, my people pleasers in the house. I know you don't like that. And like, it's an opportunity for you to, again, be even more grounded in your alignment, in your truth and what you want. And at the end of the day, that's going to make you a hell of a lot more happy. And, and that's part of your practice. It's part of you loving yourself. And sometimes loving yourself is saying no to those people who aren't a reflection of that for you, and it's the tough things we get to do.
Yeah, I was just such a habitual people pleaser my whole life. I still have we all do. We're people. Yeah. We want people to love us. We don't want to be kicked out of the tribe.
Yep.
So, and that's what it all comes down to. And I think back to when I was really people pleasing. It is really like, I don't know how else to say it, but people pleasing feels like self-suppression or self-abuse. Like it really does, because you are
self-betrayal.
Oh my God. Yes. Like doing things that your soul is so out of alignment with that it feels like actual physical pain, and it's not doing them a favor because you secretly hate them then. So I would rather have people be truthful with me and not secretly hate me for different things than to do that. So you're actually not doing anyone a favor in that situation.
Totally. I 100% agree. It's a lose-lose. Lose-lose game. People pleasing is a lose-lose game. Write that down. We want to play in win-win games. Okay, girl, I want to be respectful of your time. I'm like, gosh, there's so much more I could jam. We have total alignment in the way that we think. And like I said, I really, really appreciate and resonate with your story and everything that you shared. So powerful for our listeners. And I honor you. You're so amazing. And I can just, even this is the first time, by the way, you guys, that I've really like interacted with her in this way. And I can say like, you have such a beautiful heart and so genuine. So I'm just really, really happy we made this happen. So before we end it, I really want the listeners to know where they can jam out with you. Where can they find you? I'll put it all in the show notes. Where's best to connect with you?
Oh man, first of all, thank you for that, for saying those things. And also I feel the exact same. It's just so much fun when you can just drop in with someone and you're like, oh, great. This is going to be so easy because I just feel your energy and you have such a beautiful, just energy about yourself and who you are. And thank you for this. This was so much fun. Don't you love when podcasts are fun?
I know. Yep.
Bye. It's just like, we just had a friend date. So great.
Totally. Be a podcast and you guys were all invited.
Yes. We didn't even have to work out. Way better. So you can, find me, follow me, all of the things, just, Instagram at Lori Harder, website, loriharder.com. That's pretty
easy, simple.
There. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. And screenshot your favorite parts, share them on social media, guys. We love to see that and interact with you over there. And Lori, thank you for coming on the show. I am I'm so blessed and honored to have had you on. And for these, I know the listeners got a ton of value from this, as did I. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody.